The moment of redemption has finally arrived. This week our Parsha is Bo, which literally means come, but should really be called Lech, go. We read about the last 3 plagues, about Pharaoh finally allowing the Israelites to leave. And in the midst of this dramatic narrative, we also receive the laws of Passover. Before the event has even fully occurred, we have instructions on how to remember and reenact it. It's as if the Torah is saying, pay attention, you're going to want to remember this. And indeed, the importance of the Exodus cannot be overstated. The Exodus is the defining experience of the Jewish people, the experience that made us into a people. The act of liberation defines our relationship with one another and our covenant with God. At Mount Sinai, God identifies God's self. Anochi Adonai Elohecha, asher hotzeiticha me'eretz Mitzrayim mibeit avadim. I, the Eternal, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. What's more, our identity as a people who were once strangers in a strange land is the basis for the Jewish obligation to protect the vulnerable, informing our moral obligations to this day. The Exodus is a story about us, written almost exclusively in the plural. 4 times in the Torah, including 3 in this week's portion, the Israelites are commanded to teach their children about their experience, and this experience as a communal event. We read, "It is the Passover sacrifice to Adonai, who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt when smiting the Egyptians, that saved our houses. And it was with a mighty hand that Adonai brought us out from Egypt, the house of bondage." Later in Deuteronomy, "You shall say to your children, we were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, and the Eternal freed us from Egypt with a mighty hand." But one instance, one in this week's portion, is different. We read, "And you shall explain to your child on that day, it is because of what Adonai did for me when I went free from Egypt. Asa Adonai li," what God did for me, not us. The sages took these 4 passages and created the midrash known in the Haggadah as the 4 sons, or the 4 children. The wise, the wicked, the simple, and the one too young to ask. We'll take a poll later of which one you all identify with the most. They see the use of the singular in "because of what God did for me" in a decidedly negative light. This is what the Haggadah says. The wicked son, what does he say? "What is this service to you?" To you, he says, not to him or to us. When he sets himself apart from the community, he denies the very core of our beliefs. So you must set his teeth on edge and tell him, "Because of this, the Eternal acted for me when I came out of Egypt." For me and not for him. Had he been there, he would not have been redeemed. In the rabbinic mind, the switch from plural to singular is only in response to a wicked child who has already separated himself from the community. To them, putting I before we can only be a sin. I think, though, that our anomalous verse has more to teach us. We'll take a little bit of a closer look. Ba'avur zeh asa Adonai li b'tzeiti miMitzrayim. Literally means, because of this, God did for me when I went out of Egypt. If this sentence makes no sense to you, you're in good company. The verse can't be easily translated. I won't go into a complicated explanation of Hebrew grammar, though I desperately want to. But the best way to understand it is to read it, because of this, God took me out of Egypt. But this is usually interpreted to refer to mitzvot, either to the commandments of Passover or commandments in general. In other words, it's a statement of purpose. God brought me out of Egypt so that I could do mitzvot, so I could serve God. That's why throughout the Exodus story, Moses tells Pharaoh that God commands, "Let my people go that they may serve me." But the beauty of our verse is in its vagueness. ba'avur zeh, because of this, some unnamed or unknown this, God has made me, and made me free, so that I can discover it. Now we understand why this verse is in the singular. For as much as Judaism focuses on communal identity and action, there is still a place and a need for personal spirituality. So this verse offers us a challenge, each of us a challenge, to search for our unique zeh, the this for which we were made, the this that the world desperately needs in order for redemption to be complete. Shabbat Shalom.